John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route? Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready! Down! Set! Hut! 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 Hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
And that is actually true. We have Bob Prisbillo here with us, the entire crew, as we thought, why do a reaction podcast after a game like that, after a couple of weeks like we've seen with Oklahoma football? Let's get the whole crew together and just talk about it, because
we're going to figure it out today. All of us.
We're saving OU football today. Is that what you're telling me?
That wouldn't be good for the players or coaches, because there'd be a lot of people ending in death.
And a lot more touchdowns would probably be scored if we were in charge.
Yeah, no. I don't know if it can get worse. Although every time that I thought that on Saturday,
it did.
Not only did it get worse, it got like 1,000 times worse.
It was awful.
Hello, Josh.
Welcome, Josh, to the postgame pod.
Thanks, guys. And I'm with Eddie. Like, you kept thinking, like, oh, okay, this is the wake-up call. Here we go. And every time it was just it was like quicksand. Like, the more they tried to fix it, the worse it got.
I think the final one for me, and this was like way early in the game. I was telling Bob on the way home, it was like, it felt like they had played a half after the first quarter. And then at halftime, it felt like it was an entire game.
Right. That's how I felt watching it at home.
In the Jalil Farouk kickoff return to the 39, when you get nothing out of that, not only do you get nothing, but you go 3 and out within the matter of
4 and out.
or 4 and out within 45 seconds or a minute. That was kind of like the gut punch that it was like, okay, this is not going to work out today.
The problem is, and it's what we've seen. It was the perfect storm essentially. You had an offense that's going fast, that's not moving the football, a defense that's getting torched, and it was just like, how quickly can we get down by 30? Like, it was if the point of the game was to get down by 34-10 as fast as you possibly can, they won the game.
It was rather defeating too to know like how much they had talked about quick starts.
Yep.
Not getting in big holes, and then you look up and you're literally a minute into the game, and not only have you kicked off or received the kickoff, but now you're down by a touchdown.
You fumbled and you've let up a touchdown.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I really thought that taking a day to become more level-headed about everything.
I think I'm more angry. Like,
was going to help the pod, but I only sense myself getting more and more angry.
Well, we're going to be like Brent Venables in postgame then, because every time he explained an answer, he got more mad with each second he kept talking.
I don't think that it's like anger. It's just like, it might just be outright like disappointment and confusion why it has gotten so bad over the last 2 weeks after what we saw for the first 3 weeks. I don't buy this idea that like Kent State, Nebraska, they're not good football teams, but
Kent State's not terrible,
but they're making like mistakes at a very fundamental level of
that they didn't make in the first 3 weeks, which was still just lining up and stuff like that.
I don't know,
guys.
Josh.
They're making mistakes they weren't making last year.
Yeah,
like
right.
there's points that are worse, and I don't understand.
Well, I mean, I do understand that. We forget this is a brand new defense to these guys. I mean, like their first year, they had 3 years to learn Alex Grinch's system, and they still sucked. But they had 3 years. Like, this is
So were they so vanilla in the first 3 weeks, and now that they've tried to do more stuff, it's too much, too soon?
Well, Josh and I did not get the 3-man rush stuff at all. Like,
no,
it worked in Lincoln, didn't work yesterday.
You don't have guys that can create pressure. Like they don't have the bodies to be able to do what I think Brent wants them to do. But at the same time, it's like, I trust that he's smart enough. Like, he's not an idiot, right?
I think maybe it comes down to Josh, the fact that they were blowing coverages. he just needed as many people in the secondary drop it back as possible. I mean, maybe it's as simple as that.
To me, I think it gets real chicken or the egg with like, okay, you need more guys in coverage or pass rush. Okay. Like I can understand either side of that argument because it's something I believe Damian said on the board, and he said something, Damian Mackey, for those that don't know, former OU player. And he talked about, maybe there's not the pass rushers there to vindicate taking a defensive back off the field. And I kind of get that.
Does Reggie Grimes play at Oklahoma anymore? Has anybody seen him? Reggie Grimes. Anybody seen him?
That is just ugly. My issue is you can't stop the run with the 3 down front. They're getting gashed in the run game.
Yeah.
And it's one thing if you can't, you can't cover or you can't rush the passer, you can't do either. But, man, try to stop the run. Like, at least make it one-dimensional in the ways you're getting murdered. And instead, they just got killed in both phases.
Every time Kansas State or TCU has run the ball in the last 2 weeks, it's almost like the West Virginia game all over again, where there's just nobody within 10, 15 yards of the ball carrier. You just, and especially looking through the viewfinder on the camera, it's like every time that they hit the line of scrimmage, you just keep thinking that a linebacker or somebody's going to come make the tackle, and there's nobody there for like 10 yards. It's very frustrating.
41 carries yesterday, TCU averaged almost 9 yards a carry.
Yeah. Well, didn't they average 17.1 yards a carry in the first quarter?
They were.
That's a real number.
Every time they snapped the ball, even when they didn't have successful plays, but every time they snapped the ball, they averaged over 10 yards of play in the first half.
I believe it. I believe it. And there's a point.
Act that way going into the fourth quarter.
Sure.
Before they finally just.
And that's when they finally were just like they were. It literally got to the point where they were just running the clock out, and that was
thankfully
at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Still 4-hour game.
TCU took pity on OU. That's not a sentence that should ever happen.
No, they did. It was downright embarrassing. I mean, I know I told you yesterday, Carey, that was the worst regular season game I can remember
since Bob Stoops took over.
Maybe since the 90s.
Maybe that Tech game where they wore the combat uniforms, that was a really bad game. I don't even know what the final score
was. That 41-13?
That was a
48-14 against Baylor at home. 2014.
Right?
That
was bad. I mean, but this is up there.
Those games
there.
weren't over like 10 minutes into the game.
The Baylor game kind of was. I mean, Trevor Knight, he got paralyzed for part of that game. I mean, that's the common thread, too.
It is a common thread.
Getting killed in games. That 2009 game, that was after Sam Bradford got hurt, and that was their defense was decent. Their offense was all it could do is drop back and throw the ball, put 5 wides, and DeMarco was on that team, man.
So does Texas Tech have a freshman walk-on quarterback that we can start talking about? I mean, if we're just going to continue narratives.
They need a quarterback.
I mean, look.
It's not Davis Bevel.
Davis Bevel is not the answer. None of us thought Davis Bevel was it. None of us thought that General Booty was the answer. Like, we all knew. If we said it in the our preseason pod, like, the worst thing that could happen is if Dillon Gabriel goes down because there's nobody. And I don't understand. I guess I should, but I don't understand. This is one of those things I'm just beaten to a pulp over. Like, it's just fans that think that there's someone else they can put in the game, not named Dillon Gabriel, and be successful. Stop it. Just stop it. That's a pipe dream. Please stop it. I don't like talking. I try not to talk down to fans, but don't be that dumb. You're dumb if you think there's a better quarterback on this roster than Dillon Gabriel, because there is not.
That's insane. Now,
it's a sad
the thing I'll
affairs,
say,
right?
the issue I have is the backup situation. If all you can do is what they were doing yesterday, then Davis Bevel doesn't need to be your quarterback.
Bingo.
Because if you're just going to run and do read stuff, that's fine. Like, I get it. You got to play with what you've got. I understand that. I really do.
I told Eddie yesterday,
there's no way he's the choice.
Put in Micah Bowens and run Army's offense.
Yes, that's fine.
That's your best option. To me, that's your best option. But that's not Jeff Lebby's offense. He's not going to do that to like a young guy like Nick Evers. Like, it's not realistic to think that they would do that.
Yep.
But that's
like I said, even with what they did
hope.
yesterday, a 6'7" guy that can't run, that's not the scheme for him.
I don't understand that. I just don't. I don't understand how, and I get it that there were, I guess very few options, but at the end of the day, it starts and ends with Dillon Gabriel. And you got to look at what he did before he got hurt. It was awful.
They were never going to score.
Awful.
They were never going to score enough points, even with Dillon Gabriel, to overcome their 100%. Defense.
He was terrible yesterday, and I think both can be true. We talked about this a little bit on the board last night, late night, getting out those real good late night thoughts. But it's one of those things. It's like I think both can be true. Jeff Lebby wanted Dillon Gabriel. They obviously made the decision. That's who they wanted. And Dillon Gabriel has not been anywhere close to the guy that we thought that they were getting in in the quarterback that he is. His
accuracy has been surprising.
Yes, I just don't understand
the lack of
it.
accuracy.
I don't understand.
Never been an issue here.
Here's the thing. You know what's funny is this is the bad part. Is Robert Griffin was on the broadcast yesterday. He was literally pointing out mechanical issues with his throws, like what he was doing wrong, when he was throwing it bad. When you have a TV guy that's sitting there watching it from a booth and he's able to dissect what's wrong with someone's throwing, it looks bad. It just looks bad.
I guess I just don't understand how that, he's not a freshman. This isn't the first time that he's ever played football.
But we haven't seen Dillon Gabriel's the entirety of his career. Maybe this is the guy that he's always been.
Sure,
and when you're at
UCF and all that kind of stuff.
When you're at UCF, nobody's really comparing you to Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray.
And you can get away with it.
Yeah.
You can get away with it a lot easier than you can here.
Well, and the windows are bigger. You're not dealing with the same level of competition. There's just better players that lesser players that you're facing. I mean, UCF against most of their opponents is the OU of that situation. They're going to have better players. He's not facing legitimate Power 5 guys every week.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, think about this. We knew that Jalen Hurts wasn't as good a thrower as those guys. When Jalen Hurts is a starting quarterback in the NFL, he's up for MVP discussion right now. I don't know how long that'll last, but
sure.
We could see that even Jalen Hurts wasn't those guys. So Dillon Gabriel isn't Jalen Hurts. It's a subtle but slow drop off, and that's okay. That's just life. I mean, OU doesn't have. I mean, Caleb Williams was going to be a really good quarterback, and he is a really good quarterback. He was the only guy that you'd be able to say, yeah, that guy does some of the things that those other guys did. But he left, and you scrambled to get a guy, and this is the guy that you got. I mean, you got to have some perspective on it.
Yeah, no,
OU did get fucked at some point.
They did. They did.
And it was going to show up, and it's showing up.
But they inherited a guy or got in a guy that had thrown 7,000 yards, 80 touchdowns, or whatever, 8,000 yards, 70 touchdowns, and he hasn't been great.
No,
but he's not the reason that they lost. Obviously, yesterday. I mean, the defense stuff. I'm a lot more positive about the Oklahoma offense right now than I am the defense, and I'm not real positive about the offense. So if that tells you how anything's going.
Say that one more time.
I'm pretty positive.
I follow it.
I'm not as
negative.
As negative on the offense as I am the defense, and I'm really not too pumped up about the offense right now. They're fucked to begin with, but the defense, I truly just don't understand how that thing has gotten so bad. At least from a fundamental standpoint of tackling. And I understand that they have lost a lot of confidence. They have some guys out there that I just again, they just shouldn't be out there. But then again, we saw some of the guys that, got opportunities on Saturday, and it was pretty apparent why those other guys are out there. The whole thing,
it's a lot like the Dillon Gabriel argument.
Yeah. I mean, is it as simple to say that they're truly now feeling the wrath of not giving a damn about defense for 5-6 years, or is that almost a scapegoat at this point?
I think it's a scapegoat. I know, Josh, you fought the fight all day yesterday, so you can go ahead and take this.
I hate this argument that there's no talent. Stop it. I completely concede. And guys, we talked about this in the offseason. That defensive line does not have the talent that it did last year. We can all agree to that. But you can't tell me that I keep hearing, well, it's the first year. what year is TCU's defense in?
Yeah.
I mean, and I get TCU plays very base. Like, I understand that. Like, it's a different thing. It's easier to grasp. But if that's what you've got to do, if you've got to go back to the base you were playing in the first 3 weeks, and you're at least keeping guys in front of you, fine. Do that. Whatever you can do is better than what you're doing right now. Like, you're going to go 3-9 playing defense like you did yesterday. There's not a team they'll beat playing like that. Poor tackling, terrible angles, busting coverage. Like, you name it. They did it all. And the problem is, like, if you're going to say it's talent, okay, cycle some other bodies through there. Jaren Kanak, we don't see him until fourth quarter. What is that kid done?
I didn't think Deshaun White played particularly well yesterday. Like,
no, I didn't think he was terrible.
He had a pick six that he dropped.
Oh God! And the other guy caught it.
He still caught it.
Yeah, that was kind of the day.
That was the embodiment of that day. That play was so perfect.
Then why are they not just going, and Bob, you kind of hinted at this, why just go straight vanilla? If they obviously can't handle with knowing where they need to be in the defense, at least do things or put yourself into position to at least succeed. And I guess you can never, predict that somebody's going to blow a coverage or miss a fit or whatever, but I'd rather it's almost like a golfer going out that just began playing and saying he's going to hit a cut or a draw the entire time instead of just trying to make contact with the ball.
It'll be like, death by 1,000 cuts instead of, these massive explosive plays.
Yeah, like make somebody go on a 15-play drive instead of 4 plays with a 60-yard bomb over the top because he doesn't know that he's supposed to drop back.
And that's the first
exactly. Make them be perfect.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself we're going to give it to you. No, make them make plays. Like, I get that. I know Brent wants to be aggressive, and I get it. Like, I love his style of defense. I absolutely do, and I think they'll get there. I think there were some people like, are you saying fire Brent? God, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But you clearly have to rethink what's happening because that defense is not in the zip code of a functional group right now.
And that was the first quarterback to test those corners, and that was not pretty.
I don't know what Woody Washington was doing. I mean, Brent said it in the postgame, I thought perfectly, like, you're in position. Trust what we teach you. I mean, stop. I mean, the way that he used panic as a word to describe the way it was perfect. Like, Woody Washington panicked multiple times, and he's their best corner. He's their best cover guy. Like, he didn't need to do what he did.
It's just like what Ethan Downs talked about on Tuesday night about how a parent teaches you a lesson and you have to hear it like 6 or 7 times before you really grasp and believe what they're saying. But then again, there are points where Woody Washington isn't necessarily like a freshman out there. He's played a ton of football.
This is his 4th year.
Right.
So how is he doing that? Yeah.
That's right. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's very frustrating.
And then there was another play where Harrington was coming to close on a receiver. He doesn't find the ball at all, and it hits him in the hip.
Yep.
It would have been an easy interception.
Yep.
Guys, the non-PI, non-targeting call that OU got away with
could have been an interception.
That should have been a pick.
Yeah.
That should have been an easy pick.
Yeah. I did think that Sonny Dykes was
the Trey Morrison.
I thought he was going to
Yes, that's a pick all day. It should have been.
Sonny Dykes almost killed a man.
I could hear Sonny Dykes yelling from where I was, and I was on the opposite side. I was in that same end zone, but like the opposite side of the field. He was so pissed.
It is bizarre.
I'd been furious if I was him.
Nobody played the ball yesterday in the secondary.
Right.
Nobody. I can't. Like I told you yesterday driving home. Usually I have like 4 to 5 plays on each side of the ball that, I can put up to the board or at least tweet out or, do something with. Grayson Halton's tackle for loss with like 6 minutes left. That's truly like one of the only plays that I can think about that was a pretty cool defensive play.
And what does that say that Todd Bates went to Halton in that game? It has to say
you don't
that
have Stripling because he's defensive end.
Yeah.
So you don't have Stripling, don't have R. Mason, and it was like Halton and Clayton Smith were the 2 ends at that point in the game.
Do they just not have bodies to play a 4-man front? Is that what it comes down to?
I don't know.
Over the last 2 weeks?
That's the only thing that makes sense.
The tackles aren't down, though. Ellison played, Redmond, Johnson, Jordan Kelly. Like, those guys are still going through it.
The 3-man front thing just doesn't make any sense to me because it's very obvious. Like, I mean, I don't think that Kansas State and TCU have the best offensive lines in the country. And they have gotten literally, they have a pressure yesterday?
Yeah, Deshaun White had a blitz in the first quarter.
Okay.
That got
Guys,
through.
I think this could be what's going on is and it goes back to what Brent was talking about not being able to set the edge. I think they're just, I think they have lost a little bit of confidence in Grimes and in Ethan Downs on the edges, to where it doesn't even make sense to have both of them in there.
Reggie Grimes, I don't know. I was kind of bought in after the first 3 games. Thought he was really making a lot of plays. He looked really good doing it.
Completely disappeared.
And yeah,
This is where Josh is pumping his fist, because Josh was the naysayer of the Reggie Grimes movement of the first couple games.
I just thought the plays we saw, and there's not that they were bad plays, but they were just like he'd make a huge play and then you wouldn't see him for 5 series, and then boom, there he was again. You're like, wow, that's great. I'd rather maybe a few more quarterback hurries and a few less sacks, just so that we're getting a little more constant pressure out of that position. But like I said, I mean, that's the thing. Like, as of that point, I was like, guys, talking to OU fans, I was like, I don't think this group's as good as you think it is. And now I'm like, they're not dog meat. Like, there's still players here. There's guys who can be useful. But I think, I don't know. Like I said, the 3 down front, the whole point just, it evades me. I don't understand it. They're getting killed outside. Like, because they're so narrow that, because even when Grinch would play that 3 down, he had Oboe standing up outside, or he had somebody that was outside the tackle's shoulder. It just feels like Ethan Downs and Reggie Grimes, they just get pinned inside. The tackle steps up, shifts his feet, and then what's Reggie Grimes going to do? Run through 330 pounds of offensive tackle before, one of these fast backs from TCU's through the hole? No, that's not going to happen. And again, I know there's a million things I don't know, and I understand all of that. But just looking at it's hard to make sense of.
this was all like the positive parts of the pod. We haven't got to the parts about like it's Texas week. Like I've never been so.
By the way, before we get it, that subject, I think we need to talk about what you drove to Fort Worth. I mean, it seems like
part of the trip.
It seems like that was the best part of the trip.
Yeah,
Best part of the trip.
It's in the Lexus IS this week, and it was amazing. I still have it. I might just drive around all afternoon.
And he didn't drive it off a cliff.
I told Bob I might just drive us right into the Red River on the way home. But I didn't, and I persevered.
It's too nice of a car to do that.
It was too nice. I would never do that to our good friends over at Eskridge, and it was a very lovely car.
That was my car.
Is
you have to
it?
drive my car? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun driving it around.
Did you peg it a little bit here and there?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Getting out of TCU, getting out of Funky Town.
Yeah.
It was fun though. It's been a really good car.
No, Ed Eskridge, the official travel partner. Well, not Ed, but Eskridge Lexus, the official travel partner. They've got a lot of stuff going on down there. I mean, they're getting in cars. They don't have a ton. They're still getting the inventory, but I mean, I drive the Lexus IS, the F Sport 350, IS 350. But kind of like what the deal is what I had to go through. My car got totaled because of hail. I just went to Ed and I said, hey, tell me what's coming in, and you can go look on their website, and sometimes that stuff is already spoken for, but you just give them a call and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Like, I'm looking for an ES. I'm looking for an RX. I'm looking for an IS. Like, and they will let you know, like, okay, we have this scheduled to come in, and you can kind of get in line if you really want something. But, I mean, just outstanding cars. Also, great service center. So, give them a call, get set up for service, get your oil changed, new tires, whatever. I mean, when you drive IS, you have to get a lot of tires because you tend to
Tear them up
a little bit because it's fun to drive.
It's part of the driving experience.
Or sometimes you get nails in them, which I've done. Bob's done. So
I've been trying to avoid all the nails. That's the great thing about the lights on the IS. You can see everything.
yes, they're very good lights. So anyway, thanks to
Bob and I
Eskridge
did have a
Lexus.
conversation about the lights. They really are great.
Compared to our cars,
Compared to the Elantra, they have a little bit better lights.
Elantra and the Focus, yes.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you get people like all the time like, a Hyundai's just as good as a Lexus. No, it's not. You haven't driven a Lexus if you think a Hyundai's as good as a Lexus. All right, I'm sorry. Anyway.
That's Texas week.
Texas week.
I've never
I can't
been
believe
less
that-
excited about going down to Dallas. I think they're walking into a little bit of a bear trap in that. Like I feel like if Steve Sarkisian can score 70 on OU, they're going to try.
He absolutely will. Yeah. And Bijan Robinson could maybe be the leading Heisman candidate after this game is over.
It's
Doesn't even matter
not-
if Quinn comes back.
No,
It's
it's not.
They don't need him.
It's
Like,
not
just keep holding him out.
It's not going to get fixed overnight. Like these are, I feel like it's massive structural problems within. Like I don't know. Is it? It's almost halfway through the season and we're still talking about like alignment and fitting gaps and not making mental bust.
Well, if it was, here's the thing: if it were two Kansas State type games back to back, you might feel like, okay, well,
The Big 12
You know,
is so good.
yeah,
This
like-
is just the way it's going to be.
they have a chance in this one. Like, this is going to be a back and forth. Like, this is going to be a really great Red River rivalry. But then TCU happened, and you're just like, this team has so many problems
And
that
if
they
they
can't be fixed.
don't have Dillon, ugh.
Yeah, Josh, I think you said it. Last week felt like losses happen. They had a bad game. You regroup. Yesterday felt much, much different about kind of the direction of things and maybe just how tough this thing's going to be. Like how tough this season could end up being. Like right now, I'm at the point of get to a bowl game, and that's pretty pathetic.
8-4 feels optimistic right now. Like that's where I'm at. I'm like 8-4. Like if somebody offered that to an OU fan, take it now, because I don't know. Like this.
Tell me who this team can beat that's left on the
Exactly.
schedule, though. They can't be, this team can't even beat Kansas.
They don't have a.
Kansas
by the way,
will shred this team. You talk about scoring 70. Kansas might score 100.
Kansas is going to be ranked when they
Well, Kansas is
They're-
ranked right
they are
now.
ranked in the AP.
But when they come to Norman, they might be ranked. We'll see what they do against TCU next week. But they're not only are they going to be ranked. What if they're favored? Like there's not just a team on the schedule right now where you go, yeah, they can go win that game. And I'm talking about at Tech, at West Virginia. I don't know.
West Virginia, I give them a shot.
I mean, you would hope, or you're talking about a 3-9 regular season.
Their home schedule is brutal. Like none of their home games look winnable.
Yeah, and
at this
they
moment.
play like they continue to play like they did last week. Nobody's coming to watch the games. That won't be a home
The
field
sellout
advantage.
streak is in jeopardy.
Well, I mean, play better.
Again, I just yesterday, guys. I don't know that I would go so far as to say that anyone quit, but boy, it did there. I heard somebody. I think Brent said like we were fighting in the second half. I was like, were you? Like it didn't feel like that to me.
Well, once the Damon Harmon thing happened, I mean,
that
pretty much, yeah.
But I think we're talking about like in the middle of the third quarter, a lot of people kind of gimping around. It's like, are they looking to be taken out of the game? Are they? I think there were questions. Were they really hurt? Were they just trying to put off that vibe that, hey, I'm really trying to gut through it, but I'm too hurt to keep going.
I think
amazing how many injuries there were in the second half yesterday.
I didn't look at it that way though. I looked at it like, wow, you're Oklahoma and you just got your ass kicked for the first time ever. Like
Yeah,
of those
they were
guys.
just getting
They physically got beat
beaten.
up. Yeah.
The last 2 weeks they've gotten physically beat up. And that's where it's like, I know it's 5 games into this and it's way too early to like even have the conversation, but it's like, where's the direction that this thing is headed right now? I mean, from what we know over the last 2 weeks, it's not good. It's gotten worse. They've gotten worse over the last 14 days, whatever that may be.
Brent said after Kansas State, we'll know how this team responds. That'll be what tells us who this team is. That ain't great news.
Yeah, they were down 27-10 after the first quarter.
Yeah, 479 yards in the first half.
Mm-hmm. Does it seem as unorganized to you as? And I think that's like when you talked about Brent taking over. He had this plan. He wanted to, put everything into place. Everything seems like, the day-to-day, even like the preseason schedule was they're going to wake up at 6. They're going to be here at 7. They're going to do this all the way until 10 o'clock. It seems like when they get out on the field, it's the most unorganized, chaos shit product I've ever seen. And that's what has me so worried. It's like, this is a very concerning. Guys not knowing, like, It's the 4th or 5th week of the season, and you don't know how to line up, or you don't know how are they just throwing too much at them? And if that's the case, take it back a little bit. You don't have to go win the national. This team's not winning the national championship.
They're not winning anything.
I want them to be competitive for a quarter at the Cotton Bowl.
Remember the Nebraska game when all the ex-players were tweeting out, like, I guess we got there we left a year too early.
Yeah, you were lucky, Nick Benito, that you were part of this shit show. It's crazy how it all changes. But I guess that's college football to a certain extent. I think anybody that was sitting there as I was in like the third quarter, and it's, they're down by 45 or whatever it was yesterday. I had some very deep soul searching. Like, what if Brent Venables can't get this done? Like,
I'm wondering if he's going to lose.
I'm not there yet.
The older guys. I think the younger guys might buy in, but I'm wondering if these older guys will say, you know what, this guy just didn't know.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, Bob, I have one answer to that. Don't fucking play him. Get him off the field. Don't let him be a part of this thing. I mean, truly, seriously, you have to start. Like, I know they're 3-2, but Josh, you got to start thinking about the foundation of the future, don't you? Like the foundation for the program that Brent's trying to build. If this thing goes 2-9 or 3-9 or whatever, and I don't think it will. I know it's we're all being dramatic about it, but at the same time, you start losing games, and then I think that's where you start getting into the conversation about and Bob and I were joking about this leaving the stadium yesterday. It's like the worst thing that could happen is they go out this weekend.
Oh, I was going to say tomorrow.
Next weekend,
hits the portal.
And, Texas wins by 21, and Colton Vasek decommits in 2 weeks. Like that. Yeah, then you're starting to talk about.
That's where it's going. That's where it's starting to affect.
And I don't.
Everything in a negative way.
I don't think that there's been any indication about that or that it's headed in that direction. I think everybody still believes in, this is a first year and all that kind of stuff. But you got to start thinking about the foundation and laying it and trying to continue to move on and not get caught up in everything.
We've seen a lot of recruits in the last 24 hours say they're sticking with Brent, time and time again. You think that was on them, or was maybe a nudge from OU coaches, or any insight? I know it's very early from when the game happened.
I was talking to some of them during the game. A few of them messaged me, and we were kind of just talking back and forth. And I mean, even before many of them were putting out that stuff, they were telling me, "Hey, I trust it. This is fine." Because I know, there was something about somebody had tagged Anthony Evans in something, and it was very much, maybe you want to go, think again and look at Georgia or whatever. And I was talking to Anthony. Anthony's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm solid." That kind of deal. And that's what I've gotten from everybody so far. But it's the same. I'm just as sincere when I say that one loss doesn't mean anything, that 4 or 5, or when you start really deviating from what a program is accustomed to doing, that's when you do get good or bad. All of a sudden, if Kansas goes and wins 9 games this year, their recruiting will be impacted positively by it. OU goes and loses 7 or 8 games, that's going to have an impact. Now, I'm not saying the whole class falls apart or anything like that, but you're going to lose a couple of guys because they're thinking they bought a good, a bill of sale. We're going to go to Oklahoma, we're going to go to the NFL because Brent Venables has been at Clemson, and we're going to be these guys. And that defense gave up almost 500 yards and a half yesterday. There's just a line where guys are like, "You're testing my faith. You're testing my ability to believe what you're telling me." So, like I said, that's where it gets pretty dicey pretty fast. And to me, like I said, that's why you've got to go back and start from the start. Go back to whatever you were doing in those first 3 games. And if you're giving up more than you want to give up, fine. At least you're not getting just humiliated. I mean, that was. Guys, nobody was watching that game in the fourth quarter because it was so over. There was nobody that was like, "Well, let's see if OU gets back in this."
Well, ABC took it off the air. I mean, ABC did that for everyone by taking it off of ABC.
That was a mercy killing.
It was
right there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest punch in the nuts that I think a college football program can get. You're getting beat so bad
that they took it off the air.
It's damn near when that happens. you should be suspended from being able to be called the blue blood for a week. They should have a 1-week suspension.
I think the biggest indictment yesterday was that as the game went on, nobody cared about the Aaron Judge cut-ins.
Whoever tweeted the thing about TCU getting to 62 before Judge
It was
does.
TCU.
It was TCU.
No,
TCU.
somebody like threw it out there early, like in the day, like in the first
And then
half,
TCU
and then TCU stole it. But yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Like I said, I don't think. I mean, I think it goes back to Blake. Since I've seen a team that was just that overmatched, like the guys, and I asked that question like mid second quarter when it was like, well, this is really bad, but there's still like 40 minutes of football to be played. And it was like, is that good or bad? Like, I don't know. I mean, sure, you could do it, but it sure doesn't feel like anything good's going to happen here.
Yeah, it didn't feel like OU Baylor 2019 or OU Texas from last year. This is like, there's no answer. They need turnovers, which, by the way, they can't do. They don't know how to create turnovers again, no matter what.
It all goes
defensive
back to they're not
coordinator
playing the
is.
football. I mean,
It's amazing how many times like you just like will sit around and watch college football or even NFL today for that matter, and it just seems like so many times a ball gets tipped up into the air and just somebody happens to be there,
Someone's
like
there.
just a happenstance type of thing. And I know that it's not like luck. You're obviously putting players into position to be there, and those players are executing the play call to get into that position. It just seems like OU's never in that position. And even like, I'm not going to harp on it, but like even watching USC and stuff because they're on late night.
they've had a lot of turnovers this
Those
year.
guys just happen to be in the right spot. And I don't think they just happen to be there. They're being where they're told to be. And players are, getting their hands on the football and making plays.
Did you see USC's linebacker?
No.
Number 18. Josh, have you seen that guy?
Is that the Arizona State kid?
No. Was he a transfer from Arizona State?
I think that I'd have to look at his name to be sure, but I think that's
Gentry?
his number.
Are you talking about
like,
Gentry?
He's like 6'7".
Yeah, the tall one.
Skinny
Yeah.
as a rail.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he plays really well. Like he's a good player. It's bizarre. I watched that. I fell asleep by the time it was over, but I watched a lot of that game.
Yeah, Eric Gentry.
Yeah, he's
Gentry,
the one that tipped the Oregon State pass in the last minute
Okay.
Yeah.
because he's so tall.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, there's like you watch that game and you're like, it actually went through my head yesterday. Like the only way they're going to get back in this is that they get some turnovers, and you're like, oh yeah, they don't do that.
Yeah, I thought that there was a point when it was, and this is as pathetic as the day was, like they're down by 17 in the second quarter, and you're thinking, well, if you can just get it to 10 at halftime, maybe you can get into the locker room, you can regroup. I know you still have to kick to start the second
Yep.
half, but you can force a 3 and out, and maybe you can get back into the game. Crazier things have happened. And it went the exact opposite way, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're down 41-10 at halftime.
I just go back to what I said earlier. That game was over and Dillon Gabriel went out.
Yep.
And I don't think they would have won even if he'd been in the entire
and that's I think the most depressing part about all this is I don't know about you guys, and I really haven't talked to anybody about it today, but just kind of knowing the way that they operate down there with concussions and the way that football just is in general, coming off the Tua stuff, I just don't think that there's any way that he's going to be allowed to play in the Cotton Bowl. I would imagine that was a pretty severe concussion yesterday.
I mean, OU has always been kind of a leader in the concussion stuff. I think they stick to what they've always had, which is you have a baseline, they go back to it like on Thursday or whatever. Yeah. If you don't, meet the baseline, then they don't play him.
Well, and I'm not saying that OU needs to by no means am I saying they need to put him in harm's way and just throw him out there because they need to win the football game or they need him out there. I don't think that they would ever do that.
That's a fan. I mean, that's not that you're a fan, but if fans feel that way, that's just how they feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I get it.
I mean, it's the old, just give him the salt tablet or just, give him the smelling salts. Get him back out there.
Should they do that? Probably. But
see, you of all people, I would not have expected you to be like, I totally understand if he doesn't play against Texas.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, I just don't expect him to. I guess
I would
is what I'm
expect
trying
you to
say.
be the.
Well, we've just learned over
Smelling
the
salts
years, guys react differently and how long it takes them to be normal again.
Sure.
Some is a week, some are like 3.
It's depressing to think that we're going to have to watch Davis Bevel out there. I mean, Texas might sack him 13 times. What was the number that OU sacked? Gosh, who was it?
Ellinger?
2 years. Was it
You're talking
Ellinger?
about when
2
they had
years
him
ago?
nine-
Yeah,
It was like
nine
11
times?
or something.
Texas will
wasn't it?
break that record on Saturday.
9 sacks, 15 tackles for loss.
Oh, they might have 18 and 35.
Now, you want to talk about a guy that played with a concussion. Ellinger played with a concussion in that game.
And the next week against OSU.
I would guess there's a fair amount of games Sam Ellinger was of questionable mental capacity, the way they played him and used him.
In the spirit of OU Texas this week, was there any point over the last 5 years that Texas was that bad as OU was yesterday?
In the last 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. When they lost to Kansas at Kansas.
Okay.
That was an awful Kansas
They had
football
some
team.
inept defenses for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
always – the thing was when they had Ellinger, he would shorten games because they ran the ball so much.
Yeah.
I will say,
Yeah.
I know you've had your issues with – he was the originator of the Horns Down movement. Mm-hmm. I did respect the hell out of that guy. What a beating he could take in a game.
He was awesome. He was awesome.
I mean, he literally would get the shit kicked out of him every game.
Yeah. Oh, you need
And
some
just and
toughness.
kept getting up. Was
Like that.
never a guy that, like, on the field, you never got that, like, he was a whiner or anything like that. Like, Sam just kept playing ball. Like,
Off the field, he was a whiner, though.
Yes. But on there, the dude, you're like, that dude's tough. Man, I don't care what you say about him. So,
I wonder how Texas looks at him since he lost to OU all 4 years.
yeah.
And then he's the we're back guy, too.
I think he's
Guys,
probably considered a favorite son still. What was that, Josh? Sorry.
I am looking at Vegas Insider, and it tells me that BetMGM has OU as a 2.5 point favorite right this moment.
Yeah, it's already at Texas -5.
Oh, my Lord.
I mean, it should be a double-digit game, I would imagine, before the kickoff, especially if Gabriel doesn't play, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's even on the board with Gabriel up in the air.
If Gabriel doesn't play, like, give up to 14. Like, there's no way. I don't see any way possible OU stays within 2 touchdowns.
It's going to be fun.
Can't wait.
It's going to be fun.
Are we
This
getting
whole
really
week is-
excited? You
this
think
whole-
like we got people just signing up by the droves right now to
Well, I
hear more
mean,
of our OU Texas stuff?
I think that, eventually I will get to the point where I'll get excited about it being OU Texas week, but I just can't get there right now because of the last 2 weeks and truly, maybe it's been the last 14 days have maybe been the most embarrassing 14 days in the OU football program in, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years?
I'd only say day. I wasn't Kansas State again.
Kansas State was fine.
Just
Yeah,
a blip.
Yeah.
Still very competitive. Kansas State didn't
Yeah, but it was
crap the bed against Tech.
It was a 7-point game, but it never really truly was a 7-point game. I mean, that Kansas State came. I might feel worse about the K-State game today than I did a week ago.
How so?
I think
right.
the entire product is about as embarrassing as it can possibly get right now.
Kansas State, OU was competitive. They came up with some stops. They made a few plays. TCU, they were just lambs to a slaughter. Like, it wasn't even either TCU is a top 5 team in the country
Right.
or OU was just dog shit yesterday.
We are back to that argument from last year. Like, Tulane's the best one-win team in the entire country.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way it can be good for OU is if TCU is like a playoff contender out of absolutely nowhere.
But that was like LSU levels bad. I mean, defensively.
Yes.
That's what I would like. People were trying to say, "Oh, this." Again, stop with the talent thing. Like, TCU would love to have OU's roster. Would love to. You look at the rosters. Look at the twos. And people are like, "Well, why does it not play as well?" I don't know. Look at Sonny Dykes beating TCU at SMU last year. Flips to TCU, and then he beats SMU this year. Like, it's not just like, oh, best talent wins. Nobody's ever said that. You have to put it and aim it in the right direction. And I think you do have to understand, like, the only way that any of this makes sense to me is if this is a kind of like Bob said real early in the pod. If it's you've got to break them down to get them back where you want them to be. But man, That's not what that feels like. Yesterday didn't feel like progress. Like, okay, they missed a thing here or there. No, the whole thing was just lost. I mean, nobody had any clue what they were doing. Nobody made any plays. And if that's what you're going to do, I don't understand this. Like, well, we just can't play the young guys, like, because they're not ready. Are your older guys ready and I'm missing it? Like, right. I don't understand. I said it kind of last week, and I know we talked about it a little bit in the midweek Hicks pod, but now, I mean, why are Grayson Halton might have played as well as any of OU's defensive linemen yesterday. He actually had some good moments.
It's like we talked about Carey on the phone yesterday when I was driving back. I wouldn't say that we've been around practice every day. We obviously haven't. We were out there, though. I just truly, I don't understand. It seems like they're being coached well. I think that the staff that they brought in was good. Where's the misconnect? Where is the disconnect that is going from the practice field and what they're planning to game day and not being able to execute it? That's what I don't understand. And to a certain extent, I don't know if Brent Venables knows what is happening between the practice field to the game. And that's a problem. So is it a communication thing? I'm sure that they're going back and looking at how can we get our point across or what we're trying to coach and teach to the players. And if they're not listening and they're not reciprocating it, you just got to get them off the field because it's doing nobody good.
Well, he said it in the postgame. I thought he kind of. It's amazing to me when a coach can watch a game like that and kind of break it all down, like what went wrong.
He knew immediately.
He knew everything that happened, and his stuff about just executing what they're taught, like him being so baffled that they failed to execute anything of substance out there on the field. Like you could see the wheels spinning in his head, almost like how does that happen? Like how do we tell them, give them the roadmap to play defense? And they go out there and do something completely different.
Yeah. It's like they go
It's got to be like raising kids. I don't know what that's like, but it's got to, like you tell them to do certain things and they keep doing the things the wrong way.
There's instances where it's just like they go rogue and they just revert straight back to what they've done over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's bad habits. Like I mean, it has to drive him insane. He has to want to strangle somebody.
The word panic just keeps in my head when he was talking about Woody Washington. Like it's almost like they panic at every single position. They leave their man and let him go because they think somebody else is going to take him, and then they don't take him, and then he's wide open. It's just like when the split second comes, they have to make that decision. They're making the wrong ones. Like they're not processing information.
Which I'm sure OU fans didn't appreciate those post-game comments from the players because they just sound like we can turn it around like 2020. We've been through this before. We know exactly what
that's
we
not
have to
necessarily like a good. And I'm not saying that like Marvin or like Danny or any of those guys are like bragging about being in that situation. Obviously, you don't want to be on the Oklahoma team that has now lost back-to-back games. Now, what is it? Twice in 3 seasons after not doing it for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And by the way, they've also lost 4 of their last 5 conference games. So I don't know how any of these guys are just walking around on campus and even going, like they should stop going to class to begin with. But it just it's embarrassing. It truly is.
That was the thing, Eddie. Like I went and listened to all of it this morning, and Marvin Mims like, "Oh, we can fix it in a day."
It's like, no,
really?
Like,
why didn't you do
you're
that
lying
before
to
this
yourself.
game?
You're lying. They're lying to
you have
themselves.
fixed half of it in a halftime.
And I guess
It's
in
like
a way,
we have to see how bad it can get before we decide that we want to fix it.
yeah, in a way, I guess it's unfair because what's he gonna say? Like, if he says something else, if he says something else, then he gets looked at as well. He's just throwing his teammates under the bus.
Sure. And again, like I get that. What choice do you have but to move forward? Like I get it. Like I really do. But there is something to present. Like it wasn't like, okay, because at that point you just kind of I think it was your question, Eddie, like kind of led him to it. And he can say, yeah, in a week, there's a lot of these problems we can fix. Like, that's all you have to say. But like, we can fix it. That makes it just sound like this is just some little thing. And honestly, offensively, and I know you think they did this, I don't feel like they're that far away. Like they slow started and then it just snowballed on them yesterday. Like I get it. And then you lose Dillon Gabriel, like all that stuff. If Dillon Gabriel's healthy, this offense is functional enough to play, to be fairly competitive in any game it plays. Like it really is.
The biggest,
I don't know.
The biggest problem I had yesterday just with the overall attitude was kind of some of the responses to Dillon Gabriel, in the injury. Like the players almost seemed like in shock, like, I can't believe someone else did that to one of our players. Like, this is football. Like, the people are there to hurt you. Like, some people aren't there to be your buddies and exchange jerseys after games like they do in the NFL. Like, this is a dangerous game. Like, some of those guys don't seem to grasp that.
There were, I think, I don't know what the TV shot of it was, but the offensive lineman did run over to the guy. Now, would I like to see somebody going in there like literally swinging? Maybe. Like
I want Anton Harrison to get his own personal foul right there.
At least shove him down.
Right. Yeah. Like,
let him know that's
something.
not
Yeah, there should have been a personal foul on OU there. You should have started something.
Sure. I can get there for sure.
Not get thrown out of the game for swinging a helmet or anything, but but at least go after somebody, take him to the ground.
And it was more of I'm going to go get up in this guy's face and not really do anything about it. So yeah, like I agree with you.
Instead, it was Trey Morrison that didn't actually deliver the blow for Dillon, because there's the very next drive.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. The guys, something, and I'm going to bring up a name that people are not going to want to hear at this moment, but the article that Jeff Ketchum wrote forever ago, the Worm is Turned article that everybody loves to talk about, a big part of that article that people don't talk about was he was talking about Texas had become nastier than they used to be. They were always the soft team when they played OU. OU was tougher, more physical, was willing to play, to the whistle and maybe a little past it. They were the aggressor at all times. And yesterday, again, it's one play. I'm not saying that this is indicative of who they are, but it is an example of this team not like, can you imagine somebody doing that to Jason White and Jamal Brown's on the clock?
Oh, yeah.
Jamal Brown's decking that dude. There's no two ways about it. And maybe he gets ejected, whatever. But that's the kind of stuff. And again, I think Brent and Jerry and all those guys, they're going to get these guys there. But there has been a soft candy shell to this team for a long time. And I think some of that stuff is tough. That's one of the few things I will say, this will get better. I think this will improve. They'll become a tougher team mentally, physically. I believe that. But right now, you got to do what you can do. And you've got to also, to me, at 3-2 with where that team was yesterday, 2023 is a very real consideration of all my decisions going forward. This team's going nowhere of note. Does 6-6 make a huge difference from 8-4? Not to me. But if it makes you better for 2023, yes, do what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think that there is going to be a point here over, the next couple of weeks, and we said that, at the beginning of the Nebraska week, it was going to be, we're going to find out something about this team over the last these next 4 weeks. They're 1-2 now in those 3 weeks, and 2 weeks are arguably two of the worst performances. Well,
Man,
one of the worst.
Got to get Eddie away from Kansas State being terrible.
It was terrible. They've given up 1,200 yards in the last 2 weeks, Bob. It's fucking awful.
I'm with Bob. K-State, you lose to a good team sometimes. I know you didn't play well. I'm not telling you they did. You can't let it get lumped into TCU. Those were two totally different performances.
But it's all part of the same package. It's all the same bullshit.
Like I said, now KSU is harder to let go of once you've seen TCU, because that was kind of my thing. Okay, you move on, you move forward, then that game just is a game. But I can't remember who I was listening to, but they were like, it's like OU lost to Kansas State twice because they got beat and then they just were still in that same headspace, and then just got run off the field. It was, I don't know. It was like, I don't know. Kansas State felt like it just broke something, and I don't know when they'll get it fixed.
That's amazing to me. It really is.
It's a terrible football team. I mean, that is the members of this football team in 2022. You've suffered one of the biggest embarrassments that most of us have ever seen.
Yeah. Yes, fact.
You embarrassed yourselves.
Fact.
You weren't alive the last time an OU team got beat like that.
I mean, is it sad that I say I would hope they're embarrassed? I think that there's a lot of those guys that are
I think you have to
embarrassed.
question. I mean, some guys are, but is everyone embarrassed?
If you're an equipment manager, you should be embarrassed.
Is it just like, oh, well, we'll fix it. We'll get better.
I think there's a lot of that.
We got Texas coming up.
That's what's like worrisome.
Are they taking it personal?
Right.
Bob, were you watching that? Like, I'm watching that game, and like what Eddie and Carey are talking about. I was like, man, there's a lot more guys headed to the portal this year than I thought there were going to be. Because I was like, there is some soft acidness that needs to be removed from this team.
The other thing, I don't want to single out David Agwebu, but I have to because he's the one that's sort of saying it post game. There's a lot of like, I'm doing my job right, but the other guys aren't. Like, I'm unshakable. Like,
which is wild bullshit.
Like, at least that's what it sounds like. I'm unshakable. Like, I know I'm doing okay. It was, well, if you're going to be the leader, then get the other guys to follow your lead if you think you truly are doing okay. And if you think you're doing okay, what's your standard set to?
I think Brent's got to ask himself a really hard question for every player on that team, and it is this. Are you a football player? Are you a football player? Are you here to play football? Are you here to play better than what you're doing right now? Because I don't know if this team has some non-football players on it. Like
the guy just quoted probably being one of them.
After what Bob just said, he's included. He's not a football player.
I can't. I don't know how. I mean, again, you got to go back and watch the tape, and I understand he's not going to like. And I'm no expert. I'm not saying that I am. I don't have to be a doctor to know a leg's broken. Like, you can watch that and realize that's not right. Like, what's happening is not good. It's not sound. And he's been there for 4 years. I get it. It's a new defense. There's a lot he's learning.
You don't have to be in a new defense to know how to take the right angle to tackle somebody.
Yes.
He clearly
there's mistakes that JV high school guys don't make.
It's just, I mean, it makes me wonder, like, in this day and age, and this is not trying to be old man yelling at a cloud, but because I see this happen in our industry. It's like, do you want to be competitive or do you want to be friends with everyone? Because those two don't always coexist. Like, if you're on the beat, you want to beat everyone. You want to have the best stories. You want to have the best sources. And that doesn't always equate with making friends. Like, when you have a scoop, you don't tell other people about it. Like, you just don't. And I know that goes on with some people. Like, it just does. And it's the same with football. It's like, I kind of have to be a little bit of an asshole if I want to be as good as I want to be. And that's not always going to make me friends in the locker room. And you just wonder, like, is this locker room more about being a part of the team than being great yourself? Because, like, I don't want to point fingers after a loss. Like, I don't want to call someone out for not doing their job because they won't like me anymore. Maybe you don't need to be so well liked, because I hate to say this. I mean, it's hard to do both.
Yep.
Josh knows this. He doesn't like me a lot of the time, especially on Friday.
I think we literally had an argument Friday night. So, all good. You know, and that's fine. Like, and again, I'm not one to say, oh, you need to call them out in front of the media. I don't mind if you do, for a variety of reasons.
For the clicks.
I mean, it's good for us, and I don't think it, like, I'm never one that's like, oh, that's going to, no, like accountability is accountability. I'm fine with it anywhere. That's okay. But if you can't look a guy in the eye and say, this is not good enough, like the Brent Venables, like it's not good enough. Like every guy on that defense should be saying that to each other. If you need to have some sort of group, therapy session where you're yelling at each other's face, fine, whatever. There's no way they can feel anything about that game was remotely acceptable for Norman High. Forget OU.
There's almost this vibe, though. It's almost like they're thinking like we've been so bad for so long, like we're used to the criticism. It's just kind of like part of the game. When in reality, the other side of it is no, it shouldn't be. Like
it doesn't have to be. Yeah,
you shouldn't be comfortable with
blowing off
people call you idiots or terrible at football
or booing you.
Like that's not. I don't know. That just like. That makes me so mad to think that they're just comfortable with being bad. That's almost to the point that they're at.
The next explosive play that a team has on Owen Field will be the loudest boos that you've heard.
It's going to be in 2 weeks against Kansas. Against Kansas, who has a better football team than Oklahoma right now.
Yeah. And they do stuff that Oklahoma has problems with as a defense. Like their entire offense.
And they show they can win a title. 14-11. I thought if they were going to beat Iowa State, it'd be like 42-35. They show they can play defense too.
Yep. And again, I want to be really clear. Kansas would trade rosters with OU in a heartbeat, but Kansas is a better team. Like those two things can be true. They're not apart. But Jaden Daniels is going to torch OU at this pace.
Yeah. It'll be another embarrassment to Kansas.
It's like somebody posted on the board yesterday. Somebody said, Mike Gundy's going to try to score 100 points on OU. It's like, who isn't?
Yeah.
Every team's going to.
Because you're OU. That's what
every team's going to.
That's what these players also don't realize is
nobody's taking
people are out to embarrass you because you have been the bullies for so long.
100%.
It has nothing to do with you as a person. But Sonny Dykes wanted to embarrass you yesterday, and he did.
100%.
You're hearing about bullies, and you're hearing about going SEC. That's like, if you're on the field, that's all you're hearing about. Like that, no mercy.
Yeah, they want to decapitate you. What part do you not understand about this?
It's really like they don't know what they're up against,
and that's just like how?
Because they say it. We know it's their game 7, but. They don't match the intensity.
Motherfuckers, you're not getting to a game 7. You got swept. It's 4-0.
You didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Forget
you weren't
game
even a
7.
wild card team.
You didn't get in the series. Oh, man. It's insane how bad this thing has gotten. And I think it's probably a lot of it is just because they did play well for those 3 weeks. And because they doing the post-game pod coming back from Lincoln, it was cloud 9. Everything had been fixed. You were entering conference play. And I think just the fact that it has been so bad over the last 2 weeks, from a flat standpoint of just game into game scoreboard, it's been bad.
And guess what? All that stuff you've done poorly, everybody's got that tape.
Yeah, but it seems
they're gonna keep attacking you. They're gonna keep attacking Woody Washington. They're gonna keep attacking Trey Morrison and Justin Broyles when they're in the game together.
Yeah,
they're gonna keep folding in your ends and creating space on the outside.
But what TCU showed you, you don't have to do anything. It's not a game plan. You don't have to put anything in. Just run your offense. Throw it.
You're good.
PI or give it up. Well, you name it.
We got the special wrinkle. It's called our offense.
You don't have to put anything in. They can't tackle you.
I mean, Bijan Robinson could run for 300 yards.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything is on the table. Get familiar with Texas offensive records in the Cotton Bowl this week.
What is the
research time?
Look and see how many yards Xavier Worthy has to get to break the receiving yards record.
I'm at the point right now where it's
how many times will Xavier Worthy be running behind the OU defense?
Just be competitive.
Because he did that last year.
They're in be competitive mode.
after Nebraska, wasn't OU like top 10, 15 in total defense? Like somewhere in that range, like top 20 at least. They are currently 108th in total defense.
I don't know, because they were still giving up a lot of yards, but they weren't giving up points. I mean, what was impressive was their tackles for loss and their sacks numbers, and that's where they're like top 10. And now I can't even imagine how far
they didn't even have a player record a sack yesterday. They've had 1 sack in the last 2 weeks, 1 sack and 7 quarterback hurries, 3 and 4 or 4 and 3, 3 yesterday, 4 last week, no sacks last week. Danny Stutzman and Trey Morrison had a half of a sack yesterday. Not one player recorded 1 sack yesterday, a full sack.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how that happens. And through 3 games, they led the country in like sacks and tackles for loss.
Davis Bevel was like sacked like 4 or 5 times.
It's truly depressing knowing what could be ahead if they don't fix any of this stuff. And it doesn't seem like it is overnight fixes, because if it was, they would have gotten it taken care of last week.
To me, it seems it's way more on the players than it is the coaches right now. Because I don't hear an attitude, like you said, they're used to this game of people telling him they're no good and brushing it off, to where I think they don't actually hear the criticism anymore or take it in and try and, like, you have a coaching staff that can make you better. I mean, like, do what they tell you to do.
So we need to organize like a rally around the practice field on Monday night, like literally booing them. That's what you're saying.
Is this your next movement?
When we show up at 7:45, media members, if the media members care about OU, we will be booing when we get in.
Well, not the media members. They need fans to show up to the practice field and actively boo them while they practice this week, is I guess what it sounds like.
We'll just say, sorry you forced us into it. We've got to sell some merch, and you guys ain't moving shit right now. I think we had like 3 orders this week.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to be a part of this thing?
I mean, you don't want to go tailgate on Lindsay Street right now? Is that what you're telling us?
No, I mean, honestly, maybe start putting the money into the Honors College. That's where I'm at right now. Revert the money.
It's blood money at this point?
Yes, I mean, at least we could, I don't know, maybe build a nuclear bomb or something.
Let's give it to the e-gamers.
No, fuck them, still. I'd rather give it to the Honors College. It's not great, though. That was not fun yesterday down in Fort Worth. And I do like that stadium. It's a fun stadium to cover a game at.
I still laughed about them rushing the field. I guess I'm the fun police. I muted that conversation on Twitter. There were too many people coming at me.
Oh, if you want to rush the field, it doesn't bother me. I'm used to it. I'm used to avoiding the contact. But
we didn't even get to enjoy Texas A&M losing yesterday.
No, it brings me no joy. That's what I told a buddy last night. It's like usually that would bring at least a little bit of a smile to my face, and I was just like, well, at least they were more competitive than OU was against TCU.
And
it wasn't very competitive.
Leach's quote on the Aggies was pretty good.
Yeah, about giving it away defensively.
It's like, well, they should think a 3-man front, and then OU fans here 3-man front and season up.
But there is this, and it's kind of like the cycle after a loss that we always talk about. How usually by Thursday or Friday,
you're fired up again.
You can get fired up
Let's
again.
Let's go.
And I'll probably get there because it's OU Texas, and I love the weekend. But I don't think that this is the first time in a long time. I think
you'll see some burnt orange, and
they're going to go into the game
OU side of the stadium.
Oh yeah, they're going to go into the game as a favorite for the first time since 2009, and I don't know how anybody could pick OU in this game.
If it was my money on the line, I would load up on. If we could bet in this state, I'd probably put $1,000 on Texas right now.
I don't know.
I feel really good about it too. I'm considering we may sell the house this week. So
put that mortgage on it.
Exactly, and then what? I don't know what the future holds for Soonerscoop.com, but we'll have to see after that kind of payday.
I mean, if there are some positives, Javonte Barnes did run the ball well yesterday at times. I thought there was like
hard to
positives there in the fourth quarter.
But that's the thing. Like, okay, it's in the fourth quarter.
I mean, I think just the fact of seeing him carry the football out on a D1 football field.
I mean, he had 100 yards and a couple
that's-
touchdowns. So yeah. Yep.
By the way, we should just hit on injuries real quick.
I mean, that should be a separate pod in and of itself just to get through it.
But good update sent out by OU last night on Damon Harmon that, he was released and he's going to go back in.
It was scary.
For tests and stuff. But
probably scarier after Brent mentions, he's had the history of back issues.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought it was
that's
pretty,
what kept him out last
I thought it was pretty scary
year.
when, like, I'm sitting there, I'm getting video, and like Kelvin Gilliam, who I'm, obviously from the same state. I think they're
Teammates.
probably roommates.
Yeah, I mean, they were high school teammates.
Yeah,
High school
breaking
teammates.
down.
Yeah.
And like he's crying on the field. That was the moment I was like, oh shit, this is like.
Justin Harrington was crying.
Hopefully this
Like,
isn't
he
like
knows
too
the Harmon
serious.
family really well. Yeah.
But that was scary.
No, it was.
But I'm glad that the update is good. Like Eddie has mentioned before, we don't know on Dillon Gabriel.
Don't know on Wanye. Don't know on Theo Weiss.
Wanye was in a sling
Yes.
on the sideline. Theo,
Theo didn't look good.
I mean, the way Brent talked about it last night, it seemed like he was just thinking like there were so many worse things I'm worrying about. But it's not that he discounted Theo was hurt that bad, but it just seemed like he wasn't.
Billy Bowman.
That was
one
scary
out.
because they didn't re-show the replay on TV, but it was one of those weirds, like maybe it could have been a hyperextension, but like he went upside down and his knee got like caught up.
I thought it was
looked like.
maybe just like a thigh bruise.
Okay.
And you just couldn't, because he was walking around
Yeah,
and
he stayed in pads. I mean, not like he was never ever come back in, but it's not like he was in street clothes.
I think it was just a matter of being able to run.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which obviously, like, that would help.
And
if
that
he-
did not help things when he went out.
No.
I mean, that as much as Dillon Gabriel going out really affected their chance of getting any stops.
Yeah. Eric Gray. I don't know what particular time he went out. It looked like he was working on a leg over on the sidelines.
It was a 3rd and 1, and he got like 2, and he got smashed to make it happen. And you just see him kind of gimp out.
Anton Harrison was down at times.
Rain was down at
Rain
times.
was down at times. McCade Batower was down at times. Like, it seemed like every 3 snaps, no U player was down on the field.
And that's when people start wondering, were they silently quitting, I guess.
I mean, I still don't like. You're gonna have to come back in the game, won't you? I don't know what that really does.
Well, the thing was, and here's the problem you have if you are banged up, the other team isn't quitting. Like TCU was not quitting. They left Duggan in there for a long time. I mean, he was still playing when they had 55. And OU showed no life on offense. So,
I mean, I guess Bevel found his rhythm in the fourth quarter. That's the narrative we'll go with on that.
7-16 for like 50.
I mean,
Found his rhythm.
Hey, he had the same numbers that Dillon Gabriel had.
God, he was so bad in the first quarter. He's just missing wide open guys too. I think that's like the most.
And
disheartening
everything's
thing.
an overthrow.
I don't get it. I mean, obviously it's mechanics, but
Yeah, well, the thing that Robert Griffin said is basically his front foot, and I can kind of see this because I had to deal, with pitchers, but like his front foot is going too far out away from his body. And like if you're on a mound and you're, it's like when you see pitchers, they get upset because the divot in the mound is in the wrong place. Like it really affects your accuracy. Like it. So I mean, and he showed on throws that he made that were good. Like his feet were underneath him. Like his plant foot wasn't way out in front of him. So it's just kind of one of those things that's like they have more people on staff. Are they not kind of policing, the footage and seeing things and having I mean, you think J.P. Lossman would notice that stuff pretty easy.
Holocheck.
Yeah, I was going to say they've got multiple guys that I think are just dedicated to quarterback play. Like it's just hard to explain how it's gotten here.
Or what if Jaden Gibson makes that catch? Oh, well.
Oh, my
Oh, that was
God.
going to fix it all. That would have done it.
But still, dropping that catch, it's like, man,
That's
you want more playing time as
Exactly.
a freshman?
When you've got
you don't
people
drop that.
banging the table for those younger guys to come in. Sometimes stuff like that happens and shows you.
Well,
Make me look, Jaden. Make me look good. I can't keep yelling for no reason.
I think we've exhausted all our disgust, and I think to keep on going, we're just broken records.
Yeah, no, it is. Just real quick, I guess there will be a lot of people that just roll their eyes, and you can take it however you want. Blevins did just tweet out that during the taping of Brent Venable's show, he said that he saw Dillon Gabriel. This is Venable saying this. He saw Gabriel today, said he's doing much better. We'll see. So really no update, but Dillon Gabriel is up and alive. So I guess that's a good thing that he's not having to stay inside all day.
I'm glad that we're past that game. I'm glad that I'm not on the Sooner Scoop Twitter account.
By the way, Baker and Kyler are putting on a show with Kyler throwing an interception for a touchdown as the only score of the game so far.
So gross. Wow. Those are both gross football teams. I might rather watch OU football than either of them.
I don't know. We'll
I don't think you mean that.
No, I probably don't.
Well, we will...
Actually, I don't. I retract that statement. I fully retract that statement.
Well, I say, Bob and Josh, we appreciate you guys coming on the post-game pod with us, and we will reconvene Wednesday.
I thought you were going to say next Saturday. I was like, well, I'm just going to mentally prepare.
Well, we're going to have to do that, too.
I know, but... It'll be better.
Have to all get medical marijuana cards to do this show moving forward.
I'll give you my medical marijuana card. I'm going to heroin. I'm moving on to the harder stuff.
Crack first?
No, I want downers. Gosh.
Yeah.
Look what they've made me do. This isn't even... I don't want to. But now I feel like I have to.
You're making me do it.
Yeah.
Karen's going to want to have a talk with you after this show.
She's going to get me the heroin. That's how bad this thing is.
I love.
I'm sure Ed the second will probably already have some by the time you go visit.
It's one of my favorite parts of driving with Eddie is the post game talk with his dad, because that's like
my dad is not the biggest,
real fan.
My dad is not the biggest Davis Bevel fan in the entire world. I can tell you that.
Again, that's your fault if you put any faith in anyone besides Dillon Gabriel. Stop doing that.
Oh,
Eddie, I feel like we should probably do like a taping with our dads talking OU football.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I feel like that would be pretty epic.
I think.
Can we get them to?
Carson Cunningham used to do that with his dad the week before Bedlam plays.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just talking about like how many years it's been since OSU just always finds a way to screw it up or whatever.
Yeah.
It's always really good though.
Now, Carey, you may not get to be involved. You may have to be editing because it's going to need. I can't speak
Mark
for Eddie's
after
staff,
Mark
but
after Mark.
Needs a little editing.
I'd try it once. I'll try anything once. It's like people were like, drunk pod. It's like, this team doesn't deserve a drunk pod. I'm sorry.
Like a drunk pod comes out of like disappointment. This isn't like disappointment. This is
embarrassment.
It's like this is they are what they kind of are, and they're a 3-2 football team that is going to struggle to make a bowl game.
You want me to do a drunk pod when my business is crumbling around me? That doesn't. It's not. No, I don't feel good about that. Yeah, I mean, this is not good for business, but you know what? We've had a lot of good years. We had a good run, boys.
We're here, and we'll always be here.
And if we can make some money off of T-shirts, we'll figure out a way.
We did throw out some ideas. I just don't know if the University of Oklahoma would like them.
Just a T-shirt that just says "Stop sucking," I think would be popular. Anyway, all right. Appreciate you guys being a part of this. We'll be back again this week for the unofficial 40. Thanks to Ed Eskridge and all the guys over at Eskridge Lexus. Eddie will, I promise, I'll make Eddie bring his car back, even though he doesn't want to.
Maybe.
Unless he's going to buy it, and then, the Eskridge Lexus postgame will have to go forever at that point. All right, so thanks for listening. We'll be back again later on in the week. We'll be back again after Texas. We'll all be down there, whatever happens. So, hey, however you got to get past this 2-game stretch, just, don't do any harm to yourself, but, drug of your choice, alcohol of your choice, We highly recommend it. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.